The more that you read about Lyndon Johnson, 36th president, became president, of course, on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Many of us kind of over 30, over 40, certainly know the story. Those of us a little older lived through that era of history, very traumatic era of history for a lot of reasons. But this particular episode was definitely a kind of tumultuous time, to use a big word today. But if you really want to get a sense for who Lyndon Johnson was, the best modern equivalent is actually comedian Ron White, both from Texas, both kind of laced with profanity, drinkers. Just to listen to Ron White, and then you listen to the recordings of Lyndon Johnson in the White House ordering his pants. Google that and just listen to the guy order his pants. I think you get a good sense for what kind of a person he was. But the decision process I talk about here is it better when you're kind of wanting to make a positive change? And that's exactly what Lyndon Johnson wanted to do with Great Society and civil rights legislation, is all about making positive change. Is it better to do something positive, or is it better to remove a barrier? And we talk about that, those two very different strategic approaches, via Positiva, via Negativa. But I like to, sometimes that can be a little bit abstract for people. So I wanted to give you a little excerpt on what exactly that decision-making process means, because when we talk about anti-poverty legislation and we talk about civil rights legislation, this is exactly the debate we're talking about, and we see both approaches at play. So here is the difference in a nutshell. Instead of trying to improve a situation by adding something positive, you might be better off improving that situation by removing something standing in your way. If that sounds a bit circular, you're not alone. Philosophers cured insomnia with discussions like this for the better part of 2,000 years. Let's make it a bit more practical by asking some everyday questions. What will improve your overall health more? Exercising or quitting smoking? Is it better to pay off debt, or is it better to increase income? Will our carbon footprint shrink more by recycling, reusing, or reducing? These are all versions of the via positiva, improvement by adding or acting, versus via negativa, improve by subtracting or removing harm, debate. In each of the questions I posed, via negativa wins hands down. In the first case, quit smoking. In the second, pay off debt. In the third, reduce first. The evidence is quite clear that much of the time, we would do better to unfuck a situation than risk doing something that fucks it up even more. See, I'd make a terrible philosopher. I like to keep people awake. So that's the very short excerpt. I like this story. This particular chapter touches on poverty, class, race. We can't not talk about these things when we talk about politics and we talk about communication and persuasion, at least in the modern era. We can't not talk about it, and we absolutely talk about it here. And we walk through some of that legislation and what it really meant and how the decisions were made at a very strategic level. So July 4th, Marketer in Chief is launched everywhere books are sold. Make sure to pick up your copy.